Hello, everyone. This is me, your host, Vega, with the Why Aren't We Talking About This podcast. And the purpose of this little project that I'm working on is to try to talk about things, that I want to talk about, that are my honest personal thoughts on different various topics or subjects. So it's like, I'm not necessarily trying to be like the harbinger of like knowledge. I'm just a person speaking her thoughts, and I just want to like be super transparent, just give my honest thoughts on different things. So on this, we're going to talk about being trans in the workforce and how that is something I have actually experience with, especially with the fact that it's like I've seen different sides and shades to that light. And no, I can only give it from my personal perspective or my point of view from being as a trans woman going into work, because I'm pretty sure it's different for you being a trans man if you're non-binary. But again, I can only give you on behalf of my personal experiences and my stories. And like one of the things that's like I would definitely say is like a pretty, big struggle for any trans person whenever you're trying to like just find jobs or employment, is just trying to make sure. Oh, okay, hold on. Yeah, sorry, my little intermission, but yeah, essentially just like getting a job while being trans can be very difficult, because it's like depending on one end, if you are either starting or in the beginning of your transition, it can be very turbulent for you, because it's like if you don't have documents changed, a possible employer could discriminate against you, especially with, the current state of, certain things that are going on in the world right now. And it's like, there's a law that they're trying to pass right now in Texas, where they're saying if you are a trans woman and you lie to your employer that you are a woman, you can basically get real world jail time and prison time, and like an actual, I think like a $10,000 charge, if not more than that. And it's like, I feel like I need to do more research on that myself, but still, it's just one of those things where it's like, that's kind of wild. Like, to genuinely just be like, okay, well, because we don't agree with you, we're going to now like give you actual prison time for your identity. And I'm like, that's absolutely absurd. And that's just like, someone's just like, that's the stuff that's going on right now. But like, it's been difficult while being a trans, and I don't want to make it seem like it's always terrible, because it's like, in my personal work experience, I feel like I've had both good and bad. Like sometimes I've had experiences where it's like, these people are really, really treating me awful. And then other times where it's like, oh, okay, well, it's not too bad. Or it's actually pretty positive. It's like different work environments have different environments indeed. Like, I would definitely say, like, in my opinion, when it comes to like fast food jobs, they are very, very hit or miss. It's like you might have a shift where everybody loves you or everybody has a problem with you, especially if they know your business or not. And it's like, I feel like when you're a trans woman, you're a lot more scrutinized, because if you don't 100% fucking pass in every conceivable possible way, it feels like the world is like, has something to say about that. And it's like, I'm not saying you have to pass in order to be valid as a trans person, but as a trans woman, it's just, honestly, as a trans person in general, it's a lot safer, and it does help with job security, which is why sometimes, like, even I feel like I am privileged to kind of have a little bit of, like, leeway, because I can pretty much, for the most part, I can kind of, like, work anywhere that I want to, and I don't really have too much of a problem. But at the same time, it's like, I get shit here and there. Even though I feel like I pass, and most people who meet me say I pass, I still have people who, at my most recent jobs, who either clock me in one way or another, which is why sometimes I feel like that's why we as trans people shouldn't really say like, you're not valid unless you pass, because to someone, you might just not pass. You might be the most realist, most beautiful, whatever there is, but it's like, that might be the littlest thing where somebody might be like, what that could possibly be? Well, we could probably see it from this way, because, oh, well, you have this feature, you have that feature. And it's like, it's just more language just around like what is and is not and what can and cannot be. And I feel like that's not very helpful to be like, okay, well, this is absolutely what can and cannot be a woman. It's like, well, there's, yes, like I can admit a difference, but at the same time, it's like, I feel like people trying to live their lives shouldn't really have an effect on any other person, because that's kind of wild, because I feel like that says way more about you when like the way someone else comes up to a job or presents themselves, that's somehow going to be a reason for why, you know, people should, you know, would try to like discriminate against you, or people trying to have an opinion about you. And I feel like while in the workplace, a lot of times I feel like you start to find out things from other people, and you kind of see how people will kind of change around you. In a way, I say like but you learn both good and bad things while being trans, because I feel like you kind of get to see people sometimes for who they really are, and sometimes it kind of seems like you have the ability to kind of just, I don't want to say of discernment, but like, because, you know, at least as a trans woman, you kind of like go through a lot of different like life experiences where people treat you a certain kind of way, and it's like you can really kind of start to read people after a while, because people become not want to say predictable, but people start to do very similar things, and you start to notice certain patterns, and I can kind of pick up on some of those patterns a little bit. But one of the things too about like while being trans, while going into work, is like you have to deal with things like harassment from other workers or possibly customers, but I would say it depends on the kind of job you're working. For me personally, like I usually don't have problems with my customers at most jobs. Like I very seldom have had a problem, and if we had a problem, usually it's because like they're mad because of some mess with like them not getting a refund at the exact moment they wanted to get a refund or something to that effect. This usually has nothing to do with me being trans. It's like, although it has happened before with a customer, but not as often, especially in recent times. It's more so with like coworkers, I would say, that you start to notice some of these, like, I guess like the ways that certain people might treat you while you're at work. Because like if you're a passable trans person, like you're pretty much not gonna have problems from customers for the most part. Like you're pretty much gonna be left alone from customers. But like with coworkers, and that's another thing too, is like not only do you deal with harassment from like coworkers who might possibly know your business, you also deal with people who like to transvestigate you or try to like find out more information about you. Like people ask you sometimes really invasive questions, and sometimes you don't know who is and who is not your friend, and people that you can and cannot talk to. And that's very exhausting, honestly, because it's like, you know, sometimes you just try to make, you know, friends with people at work, even though you really shouldn't, but you try to make friends with people at work because you just try to be, you know, like everybody else. But like, it feels like a lot of times, like at least just speaking from my personal point of view, it feels like I'm never like able to just give people like all of myself. I feel like it feels like I have to kind of edit myself. Like I have to give you a version of myself where it's like, okay, well, you have this version of me where I will tell you about this and this about my life, but I won't tell you about this. And that's another confusing part too, I will say, is like, you really shouldn't tell everyone like all your business anyway, but at the same time, it's like, it feels like at times, you know, there's no one you can really talk to. Because like if you got a problem with someone at work who's doing something or feeling some kind of way, unless you have allies at your job, don't get me wrong, like you can have friends or whatever, but it's like, but if you're like at a job and like none of your friends are there, like you basically got to figure it out. And it's like, it does make it sometimes a little frustrating and difficult when like people already kind of formulate an opinion about a group of people that they don't really understand or know much about. And it's like, it'd be nice if people would maybe take the time more out to try to like do more research or just more introspection in general. Because it's like, why the hell the way I present myself should have so much feelings towards you in your heart? Because it's like, you really shouldn't feel any kind of way about the way that I am. And I'm kind of like, I exist as me and you exist as you. But people feel often so very threatened by people like me and my existence, and it's really like stupid. But it's an unfortunate part of the world. I would definitely say, like, you know, I feel like early on when I would work different jobs, because I've worked a lot of different jobs in my life. Like at a, I've been at a couple of different restaurants. I've been a truck driver. I've been, what else? I've been a call service agent and worked at a few factories. So it's like a little here and there everywhere, a gas station or two. And it's like in different places, I've noticed different types of like scenarios. I feel like in a lot of factories, you tend to find a lot of like mostly older guys who tend to be, at least from my personal opinion, like I've noticed like they tend to be absolutely like gobsmacked amazed. They don't really like they act like they've never seen a trans person before, and it's like to them it's like I feel like in those kinds of environments, despite the more male kind of like environment, I can pretty much be fine because I feel like, not to be vain, I'm in my element and I feel like can't nobody shake my faith in myself because I feel good about myself. And I feel like, you know, a lot of men, I do feel like oftentimes do like some trans women, but of course, like that's something that's like super taboo because that's not okay because apparently it's not. It's never okay to just be different in any kind of way. You have to follow the cookie cutter plan or else people will have a problem with you. But yeah, I feel like in work environments such as like truck driving and like factory work, I've noticed I've had a much easier time. And I would say, and I would even say like when I was actually at at one factory place, I would say I was much earlier in my transition, and I still had a lot of people treat me like poorly. They were kind of mean to me, but I definitely still, you would occasionally get like the occasional dude who would try to talk to you or try to like ask you crazy ass questions. And that's another thing too. I'm not sure like if every trans woman experiences this, but I'm pretty sure a lot of us do. It's like there's those times where like you'll have like a random ass dude who will ask you some crazy questions while at your job, and out of nowhere it's like he might ask you something super like sexual, or he'll kind of play it off and act like he'll have to play it off and act like it's not meant to be taken at, you know, in a sexual way, like what, I'm not really into you like that, I was just trying to affirm your identity. Or it's like, what, I don't know what you're talking about, like, you know, they'll act like you're freaking crazy, like, and it's like you were just gassing me up telling me how I was all this and all that, and now like I feel like whenever like I confront them with it, or if they're in front of other people, they get weird sometimes. So there's a lot of DL people at certain jobs, definitely. And I feel like in fast food and in call service jobs, hell, I'm sorry, let me take that back. At every single job, basically, you will also have to deal with the vitriol from, you know, other women at times at a job. And sometimes it feels like I don't really have like, at times I feel like I have good sisterhood with, you know, the women I work with, and at other times I don't, and it wildly differs. Some jobs, I swear it feels like almost everybody loves me, and at other places they are like, what? I don't like this person here in the women's restroom, but like because I'm that girl, I don't really have that problem at my jobs, because my jobs don't really ever like, despite how fucked up things have gotten, I've never had my job straight up just be like, no, you can't use the women's restroom. They've usually just been like, oh, okay, well, you know, we just want to make sure everybody's comfortable and that you're comfortable. I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine. I hope everybody else is fine. Because it's like, and like for the most part, usually like even other like women at my job, usually when like one lady might say something transphobic, like, oh, I didn't feel comfortable with that person in there. They'll usually say something like, you didn't even know she was trans until somebody mentioned it to you. So it's like, shut the hell up. It's like, get out of here. Like, you didn't even know, no way. Why you over there like focusing so hard? It's like, you didn't even, like, I don't know. That's what sometimes like that's annoying too, is like I feel like you at times can deal with, and there's no real easy way to say this because I feel like no matter how I say it, it's gonna sound super duper vain. And it's like if I say it, like I'm gonna say it because it's my podcast. I'm gonna say what the fuck I want to say because I can say what I want to say and can't nobody stop me. So, but at the same time, it's like I'm not like that. But at the same time, it's like it feels like if I say, okay, well, I work with some women where I do feel like I've actually felt, you know, the ire or jealousy of some other women. They'll be like, what? No woman's jealous of you. Like, what do I got to be jealous of you of? Like, I'm a real this and that. And it's just like, okay, cool, good for you. Like, I can't take nothing away from you, just like you can't take nothing away from me. And it's like, you know, vice versa. And that's absolutely super duper fine. And then what makes it kind of funny to me is just like, I have had at times where like, if guys at a job that I was working would try to talk to me or flirt with me, a lot of different, not every girl I would work with, but a couple of different girls I've worked with in the past would try to make, you know, a point to say, oh, by the way, did you know that's a man, by the way, y'all? Oh, by the way, y'all, I just want to let you know. And it just be kind of like, why do you feel the need to do that? You felt the need to do that because like, what, you're insecure? I'm kind of like, no offense, step your pussy up. I'm just like, you shouldn't be mad at me. I didn't do shit to you. I'm just like, I literally will exist in my own little space and I will doodle on sketch paper while I'm sitting here at like a gas station and have some random dude in my face like, oh, hey, like, what's your name? Where are you from? It's like, oh, I'm so-and-so and I'm down here. Why? And I only laugh about it because it's like, it happened quite a few times while I was working at a gas station. And I would have this other girl that I would work with constantly talk about me behind my back. And it got so annoying that we actually got into like an argument while in the store. And I remember we're calling each other bitches and hoes. And she's like, oh, well, that's why your daddy like it. And I'm sitting there like, lady, I don't fucking care. I don't even like my own dad, which sounds so messed up. But I'm just like, I don't even care. I'm just like, okay. And I remember she tried to make it such a point to be like, because she tried to like defeminize me in front of like a group of people because like she would decide to argue with me at the store when there was like so many people there. Like it probably had to be like the store. I can't say into words how many people it was, but I would say at least it was a good like 2-3 lines wrapped up in the store. So it was like a lot of people up in this store, crowded up around, and everybody's just like sitting here kind of like watching just our little argument and spit spat, and we're just like going back and forth saying stuff about each other. And she's saying stuff like, oh, well, I don't even know why you're trying to act hard like that or whatever. You know you ain't gonna do shit, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, I was like, can you like leave me alone? And it's so funny because it's like, even though, like, because there was a guy who ran and was like, okay, ladies, let's try to calm this down or whatever. I don't know, I guess he was trying to be chivalrous or whatever. And, like, this girl that I'm having an argument with, I'm going to call her Skittles. We're going to call her Skittles. So this argument with Skittles that I was having, she, well, made it funny because she made the point to be like, oh, well, I'm a woman. I don't know what that is over there, but I'm a woman over here. And then it's funny because the dude went right back to just being like, okay, well, I'm sorry, like, so ladies or whatever. And literally I had like no one else in that store like would like have bothered me that day, even after she's airing out all my business in front of everybody. Super embarrassing, very like kind of humiliating and kind of like annoying. But the one good thing I will say is that I really didn't have any customers that day that really went out their way to try to bother me. And I usually don't. At that gas station, I had a few customers who would try to say transphobic things to me. So I guess I do have experience, like I said before, with, you know, dealing with a few customers who can be a little bit annoying. Because I've had customers be like, well, I'm not going to call you ma'am. And I've been like, okay, well, you don't got to call me ma'am, but you're not going to call me sir. I'm not going to respond to that. I'll be like, you cannot make me. I will not respond to that. I'm going to be like, I'm not a sir. No, you can call me by my name, or you can just say, oh, I need this. And I'll be like, okay, there you go. Have a good day. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to be like, okay, well, have a good day. And just be like gone by. But it's like, I don't get paid enough by anyone. And I don't think anyone can pay me enough to just be disrespected to a certain point. Like, of course, I feel like with a lot of jobs, you'll take a lot of disrespect from whether that be your higher ups or that's from people you work with or just the shit of the job in and of itself. But there's a certain point where you gotta be like, I'm not gonna just keep taking this. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna like start to want to stand up for yourself. And I feel like, you know, while being trans, while in different work environments, has gotten me to be able to stand up for myself. Like, I'm a very skittish and nervous person in general. I don't usually like conflict or confrontation, but at the same time, like, I will stand up for myself if need be, like if I absolutely need to, or like if I need to stand up for for someone else that I care about or for something that I believe in, yes. But like, usually I'm not the most confrontational person, so I feel like it does take quite a lot for me to get like aggressive or want to like fight back with people. But I've dealt with a lot of like, you know, angry, bitter people while at a job. I've even had people talk about me, you know, when I was working at this other factory job with this other trans girl. And people at the job started to create a rumor that like we were messing with this one married guy that was working up there. And we were like, no, we didn't. At least I was like, no, we didn't. I don't know what any of this is, because I'm like, I ain't got nothing to do with none of what y'all got going on. I don't know what so-and-so did with who, but all I know is I didn't do anything. And it's very annoying when people try to say that or just assume just because I'm trans, I must be like a freak or whatever. I must just be like willing to do anything and everything, because that's also happened too while at different jobs. And like, I remember like what they would call me too, because they were like, oh, it's the white one and it's the black one with the titties. And I'm just kind of like, could you not just say the black girl or the black trans girl? Did you have to say the black one with the titties? Like how dehumanizing is that? Honestly, it's just kind of like, y'all suck. Y'all actually suck for real. But like, that's why I try not to really let like people, you know, at least like negative outside noise try to like break me down or make me feel like whatever. But that's some of the negative stuff you can definitely experience at a job. And also like, depending on who you work with, you might also deal with people who might try to pry into your business and might tell your employer that you're trans, or if they don't like trans people, and then they try to fire you that way. Like, I swear, bitches be messy and people don't be shit sometimes. And it's like, I'm not saying that, now that's never happened to me where like someone like told like a higher up about my business and then they let me go. Like, that's never quite happened, but it has been where I worked a job and they knew my business and they very much wanted me gone. But because they felt like I was a legal liability, possibly, they didn't really want to absolutely like, they didn't want to like just straight up do what, you know, to get rid of me. But at the same time, they very much wanted me like not to be there, and I could tell that they didn't. Won't talk about that today, but maybe another time. But like, there's also been like a lot of good experiences too while at work too. So like, I don't want to make it seem like it's just like it's all doom and gloom and it's all negative. Like, if you're trans and you go to work and it's like you can't work a normal job, it's like it's gonna be hell. It's like, it's not quite like that. Like, I would say it very much depends on the job and the people you work with, because I've worked, like I said before, like I've worked jobs where, you know, most of the people there were actually pretty accepting or at least neutral. And I've worked jobs also where like almost everybody there loved me. They were like, oh, you're such an amazing person. You're so blah, 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 such a good worker. And it's like, you know, I don't, and at times like I would say like, I feel like I've actually had like kind of like a half and half. Like, I've had some very negative experiences, but also very positive ones. And I've even met like some, even like my best friends, like from like a job that I worked a random location. So it's like, there were definitely always really cool people at different places. And I feel like more often than not, I do find more people to be more affirming and more like, I guess, on my side while at work. But I do also feel like a part of that is due because I pass as well as I do, because I feel like more people are more willing to be like, oh, okay, well, I believe Vega because Vega just seems like a nice and sweet person. But it's like, yeah, I feel like I can even call that out where I feel like, okay, but I'm not blind, I'm not oblivious. I feel like sometimes it's like, because I'm not, I guess, as I'm not threatening looking and I look like, you know, what I tell you, I feel like that's why more people are more willing to be like, oh, okay, well, I believe you. But it's like, not every trans person passed, and it's like that shouldn't be like a requirement. Because I have literally worked a job where there was a lady who was complaining about, saying she didn't feel comfortable with trans women using the restroom with her, and they said I was fine. They said I could use, even though they said, oh, you can use the men's, the women's, or the gender neutral in like the restroom in the office or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm gonna continue using the women's because I'm a lady, but thank you. But like, I remember the other trans girl wasn't so lucky because they sure just told her, no, you can't use the women's restroom. And I was like, oh my God. And I really do feel like a large part of that was because she was a lot earlier in her transition, and they were basically discriminating against her, being like, okay, well, we don't feel comfortable with that. And it's like, and I'd be like, damn. And it's like, it be making me feel bad because it's like, yeah, I still get shit for who I am as a person, but for the most part, because I look like a woman and I know I'm a pretty woman, I pretty much can kind of just be dealt and be left alone in the world of work. Like I can pretty much like go to almost any job and like they're gonna be like, oh, okay, well, she was such an amazing person and candidate, blah 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 blah. Like if anything, they'll deny me of a job because like quicker because like I'm black and a woman as opposed to me being trans, because like that's something where I feel like most jobs wouldn't really know that. And I like it that way because it's like I'm not ashamed of being who I am, but I like my employers not to know because it's really not their business. And they really shouldn't be knowing anything like my medical history or anything like that, no way. But yeah, she was made to, well, they told her straight up she could use the gender neutral or just the men's restroom. They didn't let her use the women's restroom. They didn't give her that option, which I thought was really fucked up. And I even think she ended up moving away too, which I feel really bad too about that. I hope one day I get to see her again because she was a cool person. I know she was kind of going through a lot. Like, I'd be like, hey, Devin, I don't know if you'll ever see this, but like, well, it's Lilith, I'm sorry. Oh my God, that's so bad. I can't do that. But yes, Lilith, I hope you're doing well. I love you, and I'm sorry that everything in Laverne sucked. Anyway, yeah, that's like, I don't know. It's just little bits that I've kind of like, I've had happen while being at work. I usually don't get to work with a lot of other trans people for the most part. I usually am the only one that is trans at most jobs. But I've been sometimes like not the only trans person, but I would say I've usually worked with more trans men at jobs. I've usually been the only trans woman, but she was the other trans woman that like I worked with. But yeah, I really, really do. God, I completely lost my train of thought. Sorry there. But I will definitely say still when it comes to at least working at my most recent job, I've seen like all the sides of faces, I feel like, of almost like people reacting. Like it's almost felt like a serialized like TV show or something, or like a drama, because it's like when I first went there, then none of them liked me up there. They very much I feel like they kind of quickly clocked my tea, which I felt kind of like, well, damn. I'm thinking the whole time, I'm like, whatever, but I'm just like, okay, fine. I'm like, and like I kind of felt like they were kind of like on to me, and I don't know if it was like my voice or my mannerisms, because like I don't know how I come off to people, because you know, to most people I pass, but to somebody I probably don't, and it's like whatever. Um, One of the things about it that was like wild was like when I first started working up there, like I remember the very first night, they were asking me questions like, "Oh, well, do you have any kids?" And I was like, "No, I don't have any kids or whatever." Like, "Oh, why not?" I was like, "Cause I'm too broke for that." And it was met with like criticism, like, "Oh, well, why not?" And it's just like, "Why are you asking me why not? Like, what do you mean why not?" And it's just like, and it's one thing to have like a couple of people at a job say like, to kind of like question you on like your validity. And I feel like any trans woman can relate to this. The moment someone asks you, do you or do you not have kids? Oh my God, I bet that shit makes you fucking tense up. You're like, oh shit. How will I go around this conversation? Let's see. Like, cause I don't want to tell you my business, cause it's like you're gonna like cause I almost like, and then usually I'm right, because usually when I do tell people my business, like they absolutely see me totally different, and usually it's met with, okay, well now that I have identified you, I have a bunch of questions to ask you, and then be like, sometimes like I don't mind being like, I can be like, I guess that trans person. Like if I don't want to have to be like the trans person that explains everything that there is to be about people like me to every single person I encounter. But at the same time, it's like sometimes I'll be like, okay, well maybe I can help this person. Maybe I can educate them, because I have actually, through myself managed to actually conversate and change some people's minds. Not everyone's, but some people's, because some people are like, oh, okay, well, y'all are actually a pretty okay people. I like you, Adrian, at least. So, you're a cool person. I keep calling myself the wrong thing. I'm supposed to be Vega up on here. But I don't care. I said it. But the other thing, too, about it is like, I feel like, you know, it can become a little taxing and draining to always be concerned or worried about what people rather, and that's not even just work related, it could just be people in general, because sometimes I feel like as a trans person you're constantly thinking about what other people are thinking about you, and it's like i I know that's not a healthy thing, and I know I shouldn't do that, but sometimes I do that, and that's why like I know like I have to find my own personal happiness, and that's why everyone absolutely should, because it's like it can really make you feel like you're crazy when the world is telling you one thing and you're kind of like, I don't really think that that's how it is, you know. And or like you feel like you have to explain everything to people, and sometimes you're kind of like, well, damn, it's like it almost make you lose hope, because you'll be like, well shit, I can't be the only person like this, and I know I'm not, but sometimes you just feel like, damn, there's almost nobody else out here but me. Sometimes I feel that way, and it's like, it's also kind of a scary thing too, to just be like at a job that you work at, because it's like to be like, oh hey, by the way everyone, I'm this thing that y'all all probably don't like. And because like I work at a store where it's not necessarily the most safest area or whatever. I won't say that it's not safe. Like it's a safe area. It's not like that. But like there is a couple of things that happen in that area, especially because just a few days ago, another trans woman was actually killed within the area that I work at, and it was kind of like, wow, like that could have been me. I sure said that could have been me, and I'm like, that's fucking wild. And it's like, and with that as a precedent, it's like, it's kind of scary sometimes to be like a visible trans person in any space, because that's why sometimes like even if I tell people at my job, I almost am like, I don't really want them to tell other people, because it's kind of like, I don't want everybody to know my business, because it's like, I would hate, God forbid, I doubt anything like that would happen, but still, like, you never know. Someone might just be like, oh, you know what? And it could be anything, because I've had this happen at another job where, like, at the gas station, I've said before, God, we need to call this gas station something because I keep saying gas station and there's like no names for it. What's a good? We're gonna call it. I don't. God, the name is so stupid, but I'm gonna call it Fishway. So we're gonna call it Fishway. So at the Fishway gas station, I remember it was very like there was a I would get different guys sometimes who would talk to me here and there or whatever because I worked out there for a couple of years, so it's not like I was only working out there for like a few months. Like I was actually working out there for like probably like 4 years on and off, but still within 4 years. So like I was there pretty often. People knew me or whatever. Okay. This guy tries to talk to me, doesn't know who I am from a hole in the wall. He's like complimenting me or whatever. And this other lady who knows me is like sitting there going like, and he's just going like, oh, well, what's your name, sweetheart? And I'm just like, oh, well, this is so-and-so. And he's just like, oh, where are you from? And I'm just like, oh, blah, 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 blah. He's like, you stay down here? I'm kind of like, yeah, why? You know what I mean? I'm kind of like, what's it to you, dude? And he's trying to like give conversation, and this lady is just sitting here like, she's not saying anything, but she's just making noises and like not trying to be funny, but like 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 how when like an older black woman is like being very like chastising and judgmental. That's kind of the tone she has, just like and I swear, like had her arms crossed folded, she just seemed so annoyed, and I could tell what she was thinking. I was like, oh my God, can these people just get out my damn store? And after they leave my store, now all the things that transpire outside, I'm not aware of this because I'm working inside and I'm not minding any business. This is stuff that I had someone, tell me after the fact, like, But like, yeah, like the guy who had talked to me, she he was out there and he was talking to this lady, just like he's like, well, that's a really pretty woman or whatever, and she was like, that ain't no damn woman, that's a damn man, blah 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 blah, and he was just like, what, for real? That shit's crazy. This person's tricking people, and it's like, what? That's so fucking stupid. I'm existing in my fucking flesh. I'm not like a shapeshifter. I'm not like Shang Tsung where I'm gonna shapeshift and then I'm gonna like devour your soul or something. But like the way people make you feel sometimes make you feel very alienated. But he's feeling this way. He's like, and from what I'm understanding, people are saying like he's saying like he wants to hurt me or whatever. He wants to fight me or whatever, or do something because I guess he feels emasculated or whatever. And then, the guy that my sister was talking to at the time with some of his friends had I guess they just so happened to just kind of be out there at the time, and they're just like, hey, like, basically like, what do you, because like they kind of figured that they were talking about me because again, I worked in this gas station, almost everybody knows me, and he's saying, and this guy's just kind of saying stuff outside, being like, oh, like I gotta go in there and like and kick his ass or blah blah blah. And I remember like the lady that God, that sounds confusing. The lady who, not the bad lady, but the lady who was hanging with the guy who was talking to my sister's boyfriend, female friend, and the other guy that was with them, because it was like 3 of them. And like, I remember the girl who was with, them, she was like, don't you go in there and try to hurt that lady or whatever, blah, blah, blah. She was like, Vega is a kind and beautiful woman, blah, blah, blah. Like, you shouldn't try to do nothing to that girl. That girl is blah, blah, blah. So she was really just, she was giving out flowers. She was super kind. And, the dude even was like, which is my sister's boyfriend at the time, he was just like, hey, like, if you take your ass in there, I'm gonna beat your ass, blah, blah, blah type shit. And I was like, oh, wow, these people actually defended me? That's so nice, So I appreciate that. Like I said, like, there are absolutely good people that you will definitely meet, and that will come through both from I guess technically that's outside of work, but it happened at work. Even though I wasn't present for it, I was mostly just told this kind of after the fact. And of course, someone would be like, "Oh, well, how do you know what happened?" It's like, no, because it very much happened. Because I remember that dude who was trying to talk to me or whatever. He showed in. I never saw him again. Never saw him again. Never saw his ass up in that store. All I know is when I told him what very little business about myself, and he was gone. But yeah. So I would definitely say like no doom and gloom. Other things that I would say too is that I feel like sometimes, you know, at least like I feel like at my most recent job, like I said before, like to kind of like circle it back to that. At first, they didn't like me, like I said, and they were talking about me. They were calling me names, and they were purposely misgendering me, trying to be funny or whatever. And what's interesting is like I don't know if like everyone had like a talk or a vibe check, but like at some point things changed. Now I'm jumping a little ahead in like the events of like what happened at this job, but like to kind of give like a list or a series of events, I remember one of the things that kind of set me off was like, them asking me all these like invasive questions. I'm not saying like it was more than just like, oh, do you have kids and why not? It was also, I had one of the other ladies who also worked there who was asking me, oh, do you have like, no, she didn't do you have, she said, she's like, are you a woman or are you trans? And I was like, what would lead you to ask me that question? And she was just like, oh, well, because you kind of have kind of a deep voice or whatever, and I was just curious and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, I'm natural. And she was like, oh, for real, you natural? I was like, yeah, I'm natural. She's like, oh, for real, you natural? Oh, you natural? And I'm just kind of like, so you're not trans? And she just kept saying it over and over while there are other people there still in the store. I'm just kind of like, ugh, that's irritating as fuck. But I'm just going to like continue on with my day. It also didn't help because like I'm supposed to be like, like a shift manager for these people, and a lot of them not listen to a single word that I say. Every time I ask them what to do or how to do something, they act like they didn't want to explain it to me. And I'm having people go like, oh, well, so-and-so needs help. And they would say it in such a patronizing way, or they'd be like, oh, she needs help. And it's just like, what? It's like, get the fuck out of my face with that shit. Like, I was genuinely like, I am too old for you kids to be trying to like bother me. Like, I'm literally just a person trying to work my job. But yeah, that person got let go, and then the person who was my friend at the time that I was talking to was like, oh, you got a whole lady fired because she said something or whatever. And I'm kind of like, no, I didn't. I didn't get anyone fired. I just reported a thing that was said to me, and I said I just want her to stop. That was it. I never said I wanted this person to get fired. I didn't say nothing like that. And even then, it's kind of like, if I wasn't trans, if she was discriminating me because, like, let's say, if I was being discriminated because I was black, I feel like no one would argue with me. No one would be like, oh, you got that woman fired for saying something racist. You would be like, well, yeah, of course, you should. Or if it was, let's say, a guy being creepy towards me because I'm a woman, people go, oh, yeah, of course. But because I'm trans, I feel like people are like, what? You need to stop being so sensitive, and you need to stop letting what people say affect you. And it's kind of like, what do you mean being like overly sensitive? It's like, so why is it only sensitive when it's like stuff that affects like me as a trans person, but if it affects someone else, it's not being overly sensitive? It's like, I don't know. It's the way of villainizing and othering people who we don't like. And often, I tend to be one of those people that people often don't like a lot, for one reason or another. But and then I remember, one of the guys, who also works there, he was wearing a hood one time, and I was sitting in my car one morning, putting on my makeup, getting ready to go inside, my job and just get ready for the day. And I remember he was kind of lingering in the parking lot. I was like, why is he still sitting there? And I'm just like, what is he doing? So I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm kind of watching him, and I can tell he's kind of looking at me too. I'm just like, okay, is he not gonna like go inside? Cause I'm like, you're kind of like alarming. You're just like a random dude in the hood, just kind of pacing in the parking lot. I'm just like, okay. And then I said, you know what? I'm not gonna let myself feel fear. I'm like, I'm gonna go to my job. I'm gonna march my ass up in there. So I said, fuck this shit. Walk my ass up in there. And it's like, he makes an effort to like make sure like he can't look at me. So the way he's walking, his body language is like crazy strict. The dude is like this. He's like, and I'm just in there like, oh, excuse me. And I'm just like, okay, like you did all that crazy shit. I'm just like, okay, whatever. And he slams the door in my face. And it really hurt my feelings. And then, especially because it has two doors to get inside of the building, it was like, damn, dude, you gotta do it a second time. It was almost comical at that point, but it was still just like, damn, this dude stress slammed the door in my face. And I legit was like, I had got my little soapbox. I had my little, I didn't even do a formal meeting. I just kind of started bitching and everyone kind of crowded around and listened to me. And I was like, hey, I didn't appreciate that person in the hood who slammed the door in my face. I said, I was not very nice of you. I said, I'm just a person trying to work my job and I don't care if nobody here likes me or not. I was in like my whole speech. I was like, you know what? I don't care if none of y'all don't like me. I came here because I have to work a job. I got bills I got to worry about and take care of. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm not gonna let these people, make me feel like I should feel ashamed, like I'm some kind of freak or something. Like I can't just be a person who, wants to work her freaking job. So that's kind of the attitude I was having. And then I had people, some of them were like, oh, well, I never had a problem with you, Vega, like whatever. And I'm just kind of like, okay, that's cool. I didn't say everyone. I was saying some of y'all had definitely had a problem with me. That much was very much true. Like, couldn't nobody argue that. They were like, even, like, it was to the point, it was so bad, even other managers were like, yeah, this is kind of bad. Like, yeah, now I see what you're talking about. They were like, I even had a feeling go like, I actually kind of feel bad. They're actually not respecting you at all. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're not. And I'm sitting there like, why are y'all being so mean to me? And I swear I would just be so sad. And it's like, I really shouldn't be like that. I feel like that shit, it's okay to be sad sometimes, but like you shouldn't let, people like control your feelings or make you get upset. But that's easier said than done. Because it's like sometimes when people say a lot of, mean stuff about you and they treat you a certain kind of way and you have to work with these people for hours at a time, it can make your whole day just feel like it's just over and it just makes you not want to be there. So it's like, I know what that feels like and that much is annoying, but like, I would say kind of like ever since I had my little speech and I started talking to like a few people here and there at the job, over the course of like a month and a half, people started to like have like a slightly different, I guess, view of me. And I don't know, like I said, if it was like a vibe check. It's like, it didn't happen overnight because I even had like another guy who also worked up there at this store and literally do like, at first I'm trying to call out stuff that I need done. He's mocking and imitating my voice. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, well, while you're mocking my voice, can you like do the thing that I'm asking you to do since, that's what needs to be done? And, they act like they still couldn't hear me for real. They really didn't do what I asked them to do, which further annoyed me and then made me go like, you know what? I was like, if y'all are just gonna ignore me, I was sort of like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna start reporting this and I'm gonna start, ooh, I don't want to get into that because then I feel like I'm gonna tell myself and say what type of job I'm working. But like, let's just say I was going to notate and properly, go through the line of getting this person, whatever. Because, like, you're not just going to keep disrespecting me and thinking that shit is cool. But at the same time, what also made it kind of interesting is, like, the dude had, like, shoulder bumped me. And he did it so aggressively, too, because I was just like, did this guy just shoulder bump me? What kind of high school ass shit is this? Because he's legit just like, boom, right on my left shoulder. And I was like, I even had gas. I was like, oh. I was like, did he just shoulder bump me? I just said, so we shoulder checking people now? I said, so this is the type of like environment we're in now, where we shoulder check people we don't like, or somebody say something we don't agree with and we just shoulder check them now? And I remember, I go into the office with this other person and then one other manager, and then, we have a little conversation. We're like, okay, we gotta get to the bottom of this. What's going on? What do y'all got? What do you got against Vega, whatever? And, of course, they don't actually call me Vega, but, whatever. But yeah, but basically, like, what are you, Vega, Vega's my name for Edith, so whatever. Y'all can call me Vega. I prefer Vega, but we're not gonna go with like anything else or whatever. So, but anyway, I remember the guy was all like, "Oh well, I don't know what you're talking about this, like, I don't like you or whatever. We don't like you. It's like, what you mean? Like, we don't like you. I was like, I'm not gonna explain myself to you about this because I was like, y'all know what it is. Y'all know why y'all don't like me. And he just said it like with such disgust and vilification, of me and like his breath. And it's like even he went on further to be like, oh well, I'm a grown ass man. I got kids. I got a kid that I gotta worry about or whatever, take care of. And then I'm just sitting there like, okay, that's cool, that's great, but at the same time, that's not really an excuse. Like, I feel like because you have a child, that should give you more of a reason to be like, maybe I shouldn't be an asshole to people and make my job harder unnecessarily, or other people's jobs harder, because they too might have kids or bills that they gotta take care of at home. They too have a job and responsibilities, right? So why don't we all just respect each other and get on the same page? It's like, what? And like, you're gonna throw in my face because like, oh, I got a kid and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, because I even said to him back, I was like, okay, well, I'm a grown ass woman. I got bills of my own. Okay. I'm like, everybody up in the store got kids or bills. So it's like, well, yours is more important than mine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't play that game. Like, again, like, I don't try to be like a mean person. And I feel like, I feel like I can sometimes be kind of a bitch. I'm not gonna lie, but like, I try not to be, but it's just like, I'm just a very brutally honest person. And I'm just kind of like, no, I don't agree with that, sir. I'm like, no, like, I don't honestly think that that's the go or that's like the answer to take, because you're just all like, because like he said it in a way, because like sometimes they would also say stuff like, they would say stuff like, oh, well, that's what females do or whatever. Or I've even heard comments saying like, oh, well, supposed to be a gentleman or whatever. And then I'm just sitting there like, okay, like, bye. Like, I didn't hear what that meant. And like, oh, all right. Other things too that would happen while working at this job, you know, like I said, like I feel like also because like I do get compliments, because like even at this job I get quite a lot of compliments from customers. Like I've even had a lady who said I look like Beyonce. I was like, and she's like, oh my god. She's like, ma'am, I don't know if anyone's ever told you. I don't know if I'm doing too much, but she's like, you look like Beyonce and you sound like her too. I was like, no, I don't. But thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so very much. I was like, I appreciate that. I've had so many people compliment me and say how pretty I was. I've even had boys come up to me and just be like, oh, ma'am, you're really beautiful. And I just be like, thank you, sunshine. Thank you, sweetheart. I'd be like, I appreciate that. But like, and I could tell like some, females, not all, absolutely not all, but some females I would work with, I could tell it's like they felt some kind of way, because it's like, some of them would be mean to me or would kind of be funny towards me or whatever, or very dismissive of me. And it's kind of like, low key, I feel like, okay, well, the only possible conclusion I can come to for why you don't like me is because it's either because I'm trans or because I'm hot. And it's only these two things, because I'm kind of like, I don't really do nothing else to nobody else. Like, I feel like you either don't like me because I'm trans or because I'm hot, or both. And that's why I feel like, honestly, I can't help that I'm a sexy, intellectual person. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, I just be feeling myself, honestly. And like, it's really, really like, I say like a lot, honestly, people. So please forgive me if I say that too much. It can be very, annoying at times. And it's like, it's not like this with all women whatsoever, because sometimes there are some women who just don't like me because they don't like my personality, because we don't always get along, you know what I mean? Like, women don't always get along with other women, so that happens. Sometimes some women don't like me because of genuine ignorance of me being trans, and other times I do feel like, sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I do feel like it is a little bit of jealousy, because the way that some women would treat me is a lot of the same ways they would treat other girls I would talk to who also tend to be more conventionally attractive or who might be considered very pretty. And I mean, every woman is beautiful in her own way. But at the same time, it's like, I understand, we live in a society where, certain traits of beauty are valued over others. And I'm not exactly like the prize jewel of what society wants or would want or whatever. But at the same time, I'm a very pretty woman, and I know I am, and I get quite a bit of attention because at times I won't even lie. Sometimes I feel like I'd be like the baddest bitch when I walk through a job that I'm at because like I've had times where at my jobs, I don't remember now. This is nothing I didn't take too much about. Sometimes like I can almost everybody at my job condemn to know I'm trans, and I still have boys trying to talk to me because it's like sometimes it's like again like I said, step your pussy up. It's like if your shit that real, it's like you know what I mean? Like it's gonna show itself. Cause like literally just a few days ago, I even worked at like a different location for my store, and you know I remember this guy who was there. He was so fine. Oh my god, that boy was so fine. Like I don't wanna like talk about that too much because like I don't know who be watching this or whatever. Probably nobody or whatever. But at the same time, I still be feeling weird. But like oh my god, I thought he was so fucking cute, and it's like. And it's so funny too, because it's like just describe him a little bit. Like I don't like he is one of them. He is like one of them like 20-year-olds or whatever, you know. But oh my god, he's a cute young dude though. Like he's like kind of tall. He got a very masculine voice. You know he kind of got like some thick locks in his head. He's kind of lean. And I was just like he had a little goatee too. Had a little body on him. He's kind of dark skinned. I was just like ooh, you know. I was like ooh. Like, I swear, like, I was feeling him, and he was looking me up and down all goddamn day long, and I'm so mad at myself that I didn't get his number. I said I was too nervous because I was just like, and that's why I say sometimes like I be in my own head too much because like sometimes I have to be like I be like you know what, I'm not gonna try it. I'm just gonna like stick over here, but like no, like dude was hella feeling me, and honestly. I was feeling him too, cause like shit, I ain't like that, but like I was low key like now if you, cause like he had even you know, cause like I was like trying to ask where certain stuff were in the store, and I know there was something that was like in a cooler. I can't remember exactly what it was. I don't know. I don't want to say what item it is because I don't want y'all to know where I work at. But like he asked for a few items, you know, and he was like, "Oh, I can show you where it's at or whatever." He offered to show me, and I swear I was like. I can't help it because like he was about the finest one up in there for real, and then I'm kind of like I'm the finest B up in here, and I'm just like, come on, let's just go ahead and like let's just like talk or whatever, cause and it's so funny because like I felt like he wanted to say something and I wanted to say something and we didn't even say nothing, and it's like now you could be like, oh well, maybe he was just being nice to you, maybe he didn't really like you like that, and you could say that, and I would almost be like that could be possible too. Cause I'm not saying like I'm all that like or whatever, but at the same time it's like, no, the way that he was eyeing me, I could tell he liked what he saw. And I'm just like, damn. Like next time I'm not gonna be shy about it next time. Next time I might just lay it on you because I swear, with how cute he was, I was almost like, oh, did I just like bend over like in front of you? I don't want to be like that, but I was just like, I don't know. Sometimes I would never do it at my job. I would never be like that or unprofessional. But at the same time, I don't lie. He was kind of cute though. Like to me, I thought he was cute. I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, like that's right. That's right. Show me inside. You know, whatever. Like I don't know what's all here. Like you're probably gonna have to explain it to me or whatever. But I'm so freaking stupid. I don't know. I kind of wanted to like end it off with a little bit of levity to that. I didn't want it to be like all doom and gloom. But like, yeah, I also feel like I've noticed like guys have also been nicer to me at my job. Like I've even had guys compliment me on my hair while at my job, which again is like little shit. But like it's one of those things where it's like to me like I know it's little shit, but to them that is kind of like a big thing because it's like a lot of them you know, have talked about me being trans or have made some suggestion to that. And for them to be just straight up like, no, you look nice. Like, because a lot of the guys that will act like they don't want to like acknowledge my presence or how I look to people. And You know, I don't really care. I don't survive off of like the validation of what men give me. So like, I don't really give two shits about what somebody got to feel or say or think about me. I'm just like, okay, well, that's how you feel. So that's how you feel, I guess. But I do appreciate my compliments, you know. Whenever I receive my flowers, I love it from people. But yeah, I've had a few guys also just be a lot nicer to me and more like, I guess, able to talk to me or whatever. So I'm still venturing out and I'm still trying to see what this is gonna look like. But so far, things at my job look like they're going in a more positive direction, even though it does sometimes still feel a little weird because now I feel like I'm in that kind of almost acceptance period with these people. But I feel like, you know, I had like, you know, I had a girl who she's a friend of mine up there. She had asked me, you know, was I trans or whatever, and I was like, yes, I am, but I don't like to tell people my business because, like, even though like she's a cool person, I still just you know, like even if everybody knows I'm trans, I still don't just like to be like, yeah, I'm a trans woman to people. Like, I still like I like to leave just a little bit of like room for where you could be like, she could be, she could not be. Who cares? She's pretty. Let her be. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be kumbaya and let's just have a good time or whatever. But yeah, that's some of the shit that I've gone through while at work. You know, both, you know, some old and more recent experiences. Um, Another thing too is like be prepared for a lot of people to gaslight you, because a lot of times you'll be thinking the whole time while you're working a certain job that people don't like you because you are trying, like people will say like, oh well, you know, you'll think in your head like you're not as pretty as, speaking from a trans woman, like you're not as pretty, you're not as cunt, or you're not as whatever as you thought you were. And the whole time it's like, no bitch, you were that bitch the whole time. It's just that other people might not have recognized it, or they did recognize it, and because of that they're trying to like take that away from you, or try to make you discredit yourself or discount yourself. And I feel like that definitely happens a lot too, where it's like I feel like people often will try to, you know, I don't want to say negate, but try to like belittle like how like I might feel in my experience, because I've had people say like, you know, I don't know. Well, when I say people try to like belittle you or belittle your experience, I feel like at times people will want to hear about like the trans experience, but then like if I say something that they're not willing to recognize might be an issue that they also contribute to, they will act like, no, I'm just being overly sensitive and people like me need to not complain about it so much. And sometimes I can understand that too, because like I do look at often art, you know, different arguments for different things from all sides or point of views. But a lot of times when it comes to the trans ones, I'd be like, nah, I don't think that was a take to take y'all, but whatever. Hopefully, you know, through my very beautiful face and lovely voice, that hopefully I can, you know, if I can't offer education, if nothing else, at least I can maybe offer a little bit of entertainment and just some mindless noise for you to listen to in the background if you haven't just been busy staring at me and whatever the hell else I have going on the screen or whatever. Um, this is absolutely a new project, so you know, don't be heinous towards me. I am a newcomer to this. I am trying to figure out my voice and my audience. I don't know who the hell wants to hear me talk about my issues or my specific struggles or all the type of topics I want to talk about. You know, I also want to talk about trans people in the workforce, but from the trans male perspective. I just gave you my specific perspective. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is just my personal experience. You know, if I have another trans woman or any other trans person who wants to be on my show, and, you know, and hopefully I can have other cool stuff going on. This is, again, this is all in the name of, you know, practice and trying to, you know, make that dream work, and just trying to do something fun for myself, try to get myself out there, because, you know, I feel like, why not give my authentic voice a reason? I am a black trans woman who lives in the South, and I feel like I can give a taste of like some actual like experiences that some of us have down here. And I'm a weirdo. Like I'm and not because I'm trans, but because I'm just a weirdo. I'm a weird person. I like dark macabre type stuff and shit like that or whatever. So I don't know. Hope that was good enough introduction to myself and, to all you lovelies out there who made it this long to listen to me. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're a real one and I love you for that. And I hope you have a beautiful and wonderful and amazing day. And with that, do we have any final thoughts? Do I have any final thoughts on what I discussed today? I'm gonna say, well, this is all in one take, so I'm proud of myself for that. Didn't expect to get it there that far. And, by the way, this took multiple recordings. I've done this probably like 5 or 6 times. So hopefully this will be the charm and we'll just be like, we'll be good with it. But yeah. Then I'm gonna say, I guess like that's kind of like the last thing I will definitely say is just, I feel like my opinions can be just a touch skewed because again, like I said, because I'm a more passing trans woman, I tend to get using, like even if I get negativity, people will eventually start to treat me like a woman because like to a lot of the people I work with, especially a lot of the men, like I'm just so damn beautiful that they'll just be like, okay, she. Because usually they'll kind of quickly just be like, okay, it's her. Like, I don't know, like I usually at my jobs, usually once it's addressed, usually I don't have much problems like after that. So, I don't know. As I said, I did it just from my specific perspective and, that's why I feel like I want to have this conversation with other trans people who in the workforce and want to get their perspective. Because I feel like despite my negative experiences, and I've had a lot of them that I have not talked to y'all about. I've had way more than that. But I've also had a lot of good ones too. So like I feel like it's kind of up and down. But again, I am talking from a place of a trans person who passes very well in, the grand scheme of things. Like when I go out into public, people are like, that's a woman. Like no one's questioning it. So I hope to have this conversation with more people. And I'm not gonna only talk about like trans topics. Like I'm gonna talk about other things, that I'm passionate about. But this is definitely a topic that I obviously am interested in because, hi, trans woman here. So I felt like it'd be nice just to share my opinions and thoughts. But I guess that's really it for now. I hope you all have a wonderful and beautiful day for real. And with that, this is the for real closer. Okay. Or for real out this time. Goodbye, my lovelies. You all have a good day.